Arise, minions, and batten down the hatches as we leave behind the safety of the Humblewood and sail down the Talmgrip coast to the blood-soaked waters of the Bay of Belush. Join us in this coastal trade port of the Serpent Domain as we begin to assemble our would-be pirate crew for this brand new D&D 5e podcast, Dark Fortunes.
Hello, I'm Rory, aka Final Gambit, and I'll be playing Silence Furuiken, Level 1 Mapok Warlock.
Hi, my name is Johnny. I'm the Dungeon Master. Welcome to the Dark Fortunes podcast.
The morning sun rises in the east over the Gulf of Belush. Its illuminance just sort of playing across the water. As you look towards the east, you find yourself on a rowboat coming in from just north of the Brother, unable to actually enter the city by land based on the way that the layout of the land is. You're coming across in this rowboat, and it's not an uncommon thing, and you see that there is a servant who is sort of leading the rhythm of the rowing with a sort of a call as he takes his oar and he continues to stroke through the water. The other three servant, a little smaller, a little younger, less points on their antlers, help him as you continue to move forward. Chains appear around their wrists as if they are serving or in bondage of some kind. When you attempt to engage them, they will not respond. They just continue to row. At the back, a Marpok uses a rudder that kind of helps steer it a little bit and kind of keeps an eye moving forward, making sure that you're headed in the general direction towards the docks as the sun begins to climb from, the ocean's surface up into the sky. As you can see, sort of the water begins to take on a glow from dark black into dark blues. As the sun kind of illuminates it, it becomes lighter and lighter. And you're able to see that you are actually rowing over the shadows right now, as you and a couple of other individuals are riding in this particular boat, finding your passage into the city of the Brother. Ahead of you, the docks begin to sort of climb quite high, even on this side of it, where there's very few sort of ships that are moored. But you can see, as you kind of look towards the expanse of the city as the sun continues to climb, many of the ship's berths, as they go off into the distance, from your perspective towards the east, as you're heading south towards the docks, they all are filled. And you can see that the day's activities and the calls are already beginning as longshoremen are beginning to pull up wagons and starting to unload or load or continue to bring supplies to these ships. The waves the motion is soothing slightly, except for the occasional misstep of one of the servants rowing out of rhythm, and it causes the boat to rock a little bit. But the main servant kind of looks back and kind of whacks the individual, his chain rattling. As you can see, the length of his chain is about the length of his arms. As he whacks the individual, and the rowing begins to fall back into the correct rhythm. You're about maybe 500 feet from the docks and the berth by which this rowboat will then dock itself, and you will be able to enter the city. How do we find Silence?
Silence immediately is as far to the other end of this vessel that he can be from those who appear to be in indentured servitude. And immediately, if he hears the servant give a smack to the other one, for disrupting the rhythm and giving a choppy wave to the water and the boat, he'll kind of like squint his eye a little bit, because servitude and slavery is not something that is highly looked upon by his people, nor should it be anywhere allowed. So he's trying to be as far away and trying to be as reserved as possible. That way he doesn't make a scene in this new city.
So as you're trying to avoid that, you're able to take in the other patrons on the boat who are with you there. Two of them look to be the bird folk of some kind. One a strig, and the other a corvum. Unusual in this particular situation is the corvum, not unlike yourself. You don't often see them traveling, in this particular way, traveling on land, traveling in ways that do not accommodate them. In fact, this has been the first corvum that you've seen since leaving the Humblewood and the Talongrip coast. So that little catches you off guard, and you see that the strig is in the service of the corvum, but it's more of a sort of a business relationship, and the strig is operating as an assistant, taking notes, as the corvum is kind of like waving his feathered hand and just sort of talking about the business that he's expecting to get into as they arrive into the city of the brother.
Silence holds Strigs in high regard, so even if the Strig is the one who is taking notes for the corvum, he's just like, oh, that Strig is so cool. Just because of the way that they look, and he associates them with wisdom, which is an important aspect for the Mephididae folk. And so he's just like, oh, he's taking notes, but he's taking notes because, he's doing a good service to the corvum. Like he owes that corvum a favor.
The third is a raptor. And this individual, she is clearly outfitted for being in extreme situations of the jungle or the wilderness. You can see that her, even seated casually, she's ready for just about anything in any given situation. Her eyes taking in the landscape of what's in front of her, that is the city of the brother, as the docks are looming even closer, as you get somewhere between 100 feet and less, as the speed continues to increase, getting into that final berth. And she looks also out to the ocean, looking at the greater water of the Gulf, kind of taking it all in. And you can see that her eyes catch on something, and she begins to move her head to kind of angle her eyes in a better way. And you turn and you strain a little bit, and you can see that there is a ship well far out, still sort of caught in the light of the sun, hard to see on the horizon, but that a ship is coming in. And when she looks, she kind of relaxes a little bit and goes back to sort of her casual nature, as you hear another slap from the servant leading the four in the rowing.
There's a calm that Silence feels with the orderly way that the servant is kind of calling for the row. And so that kind of beat is the one thing that Silence is holding on to, trying to, hum a little bit to it to himself, because this situation is very nerve-wracking for him. A new large city that is widely unknown by him. And so he's trying to take comfort in the small things near him. And as soon as he sees the raptor, when she goes to look out something and gets immediately tense, Silence will probably put one hand down on his wakizashi, his small blade on his hip. And as soon as he sees the raptor, calm down a little bit, he'll be like, all right, cool, okay.
As you're taking all of that in, and the grip on your blade begins to relax just a little bit, you hear the final call from the Mophawk as he lets the four know that they're to pull up their oars and coast the rest of the way in, as you're about 15 feet from the dock. And on the dock itself, you see a couple of different individuals rushing up to be able to grab and sort of hold on to it and kind of bring it in. One is a servant and another is a hedge, and both of them are just kind of grabbing as the boat just comes up very close to the dock, and they kind of grab and pull as a Gallus steps up and begins to tie ropes at both ends of this long sort of rowboat, securing it, giving you a moment to kind of assess the situation and take them in before they start to help the individuals off and carry on, what looks to be a parcel of packages sort of coming from a runner that you had seen just sort of taking off just as the rowboat was leaving from the shore to bring you to the city of the brother. It's been about 45 minutes in the process of the rowing, mostly over shallows. So it was mostly an easy journey for you. But as you kind of are taking in and assessing the situation, all of a sudden the smells of brackish water and seaweed and sweat and sort of the weird sort of food, sort of spiced smell sort of wafting in from the city above, as you can see that everybody is beginning to kind of load off besides the 4 servant and the Mapok, and head towards what looks to be a series of stairs leading up 20 feet onto the sort of the pier proper.
As soon as Silence notices, that waft of smell, that the salty, briny of the seas, you're like, no, I don't like that. But then you get the spices of the food, and you're like, no, and then back to the brine, you're like, nah. The sea life, he's been on the coast a little bit now, and it doesn't fit him too well. Despite having a good outlook on water, salted water is not something he was prepared to deal with, and it ruffles him a little bit.
The city calls to you from above as you begin to climb the steps, and you hear sort of the din of the city, the noise, the cacophony, the calls of various individuals working the docks begin to grab you as you step up onto sort of what is essentially the wharf itself, that sort of spans off into the distance, sort of south into the east from your current position. You find yourself really at what has been explained to you as the sort of the top of the docks. And you would kind of take in your surroundings and look around and look in each direction. And so to the west just a little bit, you can see sort of the wooden wall that's been erected and sort of a gate there. And you see that there are 2 Gerbine, one on each side of the gate, carrying incredibly tall pole arms, just sort of standing there in what looks to be like light leather armor or maybe some light chain. But they are very much keeping on their sort of their position for guarding. And as you're kind of observing and watching what's going on, you can see that there are individuals that are sort of coming from various places along the docks. Some of them look to be, locals of the city. Others appear to be sailors or of that sort of ilk. And you notice that the guards are very aware of who belongs in the city and who doesn't, because at points, as a sailor may step towards and try to gain entry into the city that way, you can see that the 2 spears sort of cross each other, and there's an interaction between the Gerbines and this particular individual as they're being told no, that they cannot go. And it's a very orderly kind of a thing as you realize that the sailor immediately recognizes the danger that they're in and backs off very slowly, sort of stepping back first, walking backwards and then turning very quickly and beginning to move off down towards the southeast, towards along the docks.
Does Silence see anything on any of these sailors and the people who seem to call this place home? Any bauble or some kind of article of clothing that says, like, yeah, I belong here? I mean, he is a skunk, and he's definitely not from this area. But is there anything that he can, find on a wagon to purchase to be like, yeah, I kind of fit in here, right? I've been here before. I know what's up.
Give me a perception check.
That is a 15.
As you're kind of taking in the situation, you don't notice anything in particular that sort of differentiates from a clothing sort of a situation, or like a bauble or a decoration, a piece of jewelry, a trinket, anything that really stands out from a normal piece of clothing between individuals who look local and individuals who do not look local. The differences is more in mannerisms and characteristics, the attitudes and approaches. The individuals that are being allowed through definitely show a bit of disposition to the Gerbeans, and also you see them all glancing sort of up, like looking up as they're kind of walking through, which gives you this sort of idea that something is amiss here until you actually do look up and you realize that standing about 70 feet above the gateway is on this incredibly thick, like, pole leading all the way up is this sort of nesting that's nestled on top of this. And at the top, you see three things. You see a raptor looking down across the area, really kind of taking it in, observing everything that's going on. And as a part of this nest, behind the raptor, you actually see a servant working up there. This one's incredibly muscled and just like kind of just sitting back and kind of, staring a little bit, just kind of taking in the situation, doing whatever it is that's job it's doing, until you realize that there's also a Gerbine, one of the same type of Gerbine you sort of noticing, guarding the gate, immediately kind of grabs a rope, jumps and swings down. And as this Gerbine does that, you see the servant get up and grab the other side of the rope, and you can see its paws or its hooved hands for the first time. And you can see that there is a rope sliding through, and that the servant is wearing these special gloves to be able to catch sort of the rope and slow it. As you see the Gerbines sort of, shimmy down and then find themselves all the way to the ground and then scurry off inside through the gate.
That's immediately impressive and incredibly cool, and Silence doesn't know how to feel about it. There's been so much ambivalence coming to this new land that he's just like, a part of him is wanton anxiety, and the other part is like comfortable that he's not home, because home sucks. So will approach the gate and look up to the raptor as he's walking, just like, I don't want to make eye contact with these Gerbines because they're rather intimidating, and everyone else seems to find them rather intimidating. So he's going to look up to the raptor and just start casually walking through the gate if he can make it there.
You get within 5 feet of the gate, and immediately the two spears sort of cross in front of you. And the Gerbine on the left looks over to you and says, "What you think you're doing?"
Silence will say, "Entering your city, if you will allow me."
"You must be new here. Don't think I've seen you around here before. Don't think I've smelled you around here before. You've got a peculiar smell. What's up with that?"
"That is a part of my family and a part of my culture. It is a point of pride."
And you see the Gerbine sort of take his other hand that is not currently holding the spear and kind of wave it in front of his nose. "Family or not, you need to move along. The public gates are down that way. Now go. Go, my smelly little friend."
"Which gates are these, may I ask?"
You really are new here." And he takes his same hand, not using the sphere, and kind of points, and he says, "Southeast, that direction. Just keep going."
Silence will take a moment to look inside the gate. Is there anything in particular, is that an area where you would find military, or it's just...
So, taking in what's behind the gate in this entrance, you actually get a sense that what's behind there are ramshackle dwellings of all different kinds of design. Most of them are wood. Occasionally, sort of as you're kind of glancing around, you can see in the distance maybe something made with some stone in it. Most of it looks either in complete disrepair or in moderate disrepair at best. It's not really a shanty town, but it's pretty much sort of like a low I wouldn't say income or like it's basically like a slum. But as you are taking in all of those buildings, you also know that notice the individuals there. You see a variety of the folk from all walks of sort of, racial, established disposition. You see bird folk, you see humble folk, you see some things that you haven't seen before, but all of them appear to be living at the same level of economic sort of despair. And some of them are moving towards the gate and are waiting patiently until the spears go across and you're able to kind of take them in. They're tired. They're hungry. This is very much a slum that you're looking at.
Yeah, Silence didn't intend to be like in any way confrontational. He just wanted to better know what was going on in that area. If he better knows what other people are going through, he can better know himself. And so he'll kind of do a, good day, as he'll move down towards the public entrance of this town.
Good luck with that smell.
Luck has nothing to do with it, my friend.
As you step away and begin to kind of move, you hear the spheres sort of come apart as you hear sort of the metal tips kind of clink just a little bit. And you glance back and you can see that the Gerbine have now begun to allow sort of free flow of traffic back and forth again. And you were able to see that a couple of individuals were actually waiting behind you, and they very much look the same thing. They look like dock workers, very much sort of the poor, the sort of the working class, very sort of tired and, very just exhausted looking, and their clothes are not completely in tatters, but they have been mended so many times that they are just as much stitching on the surfaces as they are stitching sort of, in the places around sort of the joints and the rest of the, the way that a garment is made up. And as you begin to move away from that, you can see that those individuals are now moving inside as others are coming out.
Silence will take a look at himself, like inspect his body, be like, oh, it's probably my armor that gave that away, just because, it is a point of pride to have clean armor, even if it's not donned, if I'm carrying it with me, that in any free time, he'll try and wipe down the armor, the black platelets that meet the purple siding of it is as clean as he can possibly make it, which is difficult in the terrain as hot, sandy, and dusty as it may be.
Continuing on down sort of southeast, along the way, you begin to pass what was sort of a locals area, or where the rowboats come in, sort of like the back and forth commerce between sort of the coastline and entering the city of the Brother. And then you find yourself in what is more of a sort of traditional docks proper. This isn't new to you, as you've been traveling for a while along the Gulf of Peluche, coming through the Razor's Den and seeing various ways that people travel, and various ways shipped goods are brought back and forth on ships. You've seen docks before. This is larger than most of the ones that you've actually seen. This is a gigantic, sort of massive dock. It goes, the wharf itself kind of crawls along sort of the coastline for what looks at least a mile or more before it sort of turns, and you can see sort of the curvature of the city as it turns a little bit. And you're just taking in all the sights and the smells, and there are docks, there are ships, in each berth that are unloading or loading, or, in the process of sort of transitioning from one sort of journey to the other. There's an incredible amount of commerce going in and out of here. And as you're paying attention to all of this and sort of taking it in, you can also see the occasional shady deal going on, coin being exchanged in whispered tones and darting eyes looking back and forth. You can see that the criminal element is very prominent here along the docks as well.
Yeah, Silence will do his best not to pay attention. He knows not to look a predator in the eye, so he's just trying to make his way into the city really aimlessly. He has no idea what he wants to do, or what he wants to get out of it. He is hungry and does not have any food, so that is like number one. Always think about the stomach. Gotta get that food.
As you were making your way towards sort of the southern end of this stretch along the docks before it sort of curves off to the side with the curve of the city and the land, you begin to get sort of a sense of the smells, the food sort of becoming more, stronger, less smell of the brackish. And you begin to hear sort of the noise coming from off to your side as the long sort of timbered wall that you've been walking along for what would probably be about a half of a mile begins to end and sort of taper off and then kind of turn sharply as you find yourself at the northern end of what is known as the Brothers Market. And this is a huge sort of setting, a bizarre sort of setting where you can see that there is commerce going on between individuals. There are stalls. You hear the sound of various types of smiths and other tradesmen plying their trades. You also begin to hear the call of barkers. And one of the barkers' calls catches your attention. Today's the day. Auryn, the city's champion, will face his greatest challenge. When the sun is high in the sky, Auryn will step onto the field of battle in the Razor's Den, and he will face his match. See his city's hero conquer yet another villain. He is undefeated. He is our champion. He is Auryn. And then there's a variation of that, but it continues. And you hear, as you continue to walk a little bit more, unsure of where you should enter in sort of the Brothers Market, you can hear another one with another variation, but saying the same thing. The Razor's Den, when the sun is high in the sky, come see Auryn, the city's champion, as he takes on his latest challenge, as he remains undefeated.
Yeah, there's a lot of good words that Silence likes in there. Razor, champion, battle. And so he's like immediately attracted to that, just like, he may like pass by that first barker, but the second barker, that orator, he might just make a beeline towards and listen to them a little bit longer, almost uncomfortably close, just like trying to get right up to them, because oration and is an art. And art is something in low supply from his home. So anytime he's gotten a chance to listen to music or a singer or an orator applying their trade, he's going to do so.
Well, as you sort of step in and you step closer to this orator, this barker, he kind of glances over at you at first and kind of looks, back and starts to, do his job. But he looks back over at you, and you can see that this Gallus is just, you are making very uncomfortable. You can see that there is a lute sort of stringed on his back, and he's got what looks to be mostly city clothes. He's not somebody who's traveled the road, but he keeps looking at you, and he keeps looking up down at your entire sort of like presence there, and his eyes keep landing on the various weapons. And after he finishes another sort of just loud sort of boom, he kind of looks over and he says, "What can I do you for, lad?"
Can you play it, the lute?
I can, but I'm not being paid for it today. I think you need to find yourself angling toward the vices and maybe into the brew if you're looking for some music. I carry my instrument with me always, but I'm being paid for this today. This is a big event today. Did you not hear? Auryn, the city's champion. Wait, are you new to the city?
I am.
Oh, my boy, you should spend some coin. Get yourself into the Razor Den. Go see Auryn. Auryn is amazing. He's an incredible champion. He's 14 points as a servant. He's absolutely amazing.
I don't understand. Will there be food there as well?
Are you hungry? Look, here's my choice. Or here's my suggestion. Run right through the market. The Brothers Market. You can get anything you want in the world there, literally, because it's our docks bring everything from the world to here. But I'm gonna make a suggestion. You should really just make your way right through the brew, right through the marketplace, and go straight to the brew. The brew is a place of food, of drink. There are inns. You can have all kinds of lively entertainment. My brother is actually there right now. He's performing at a particular establishment by the name of High Noon. Go there, have a drink, listen to my brother, go get some food. They've got fantastic food there. And then don't dawdle, because you need to actually go to, you need to go see this fight. Go to the Razor's Den, go see Auryn fight. He's absolutely fantastic. He's a mean one with an axe. I guarantee you'll enjoy it.
Is he finishing a quarrel with someone?
No, he's finishing his debt. Don't you know he fights in the gladiator arena? That's what the Razor's Den is. Do you know what a gladiator is?
They fight for sport?
Yes. You do. That's fantastic. Yes, our Razor Den, it is renowned around the world. I guarantee. Just it's fantastic, and no one is better than Auryn. He has remained undefeated since he was a child.
I will do so then. And like Silence is almost like remiss that he isn't going to hear this guy play his lute, but also there is a promise that his brother will. So he's like, all right, well, one door closes, another one opens. Yeah.
And you see the Gallus just sort of like do this sort of like attempt to like sort of bow and do this flourish, and kind of like twirls his hand in front of, his feathered hand sort of in front of him, as you see his feathered arm wing kind of like dip in front of him, and he bows, and his left hand just sort of comes up, and you can see that he's reaching out for a coin or two.
This social situation is way above what Silence knows how to handle, so he's gonna like put his hand like towards his belt pouch, which is like right next to his small blade, and I'll open it up, and he's just like, in his mind is all of the math calculations going, just like, do I give him this much money? Like how much are words worth nowadays? Like and so he'll just grab a gold coin. He's like, that's tried and true. That's got to work, right? And he'll just plop a gold coin right in his hand.
Give me a persuasion check.
That is Silence's wheelhouse. So it should. Oh no, 9.
The Gallus just kind of like closes his hand, around it, and kind of steps up, and he kind of says, "And there you go, my boy." And he kind of ushers you along, never opening it until after you begin to sort of turn and step away a little bit. And when he looks at it, he's like, "My word, wait a second." And he kind of like wraps his arm around you, just like sort of gathering you in his right arm. And it sort of jostles you a little bit, jostles your armor a little bit, jostles your weapons that are on your back, as he just kind of wraps you in. He's like, my boy, tell my brother Gaius to take care of you well and to get you to the den. He has connections, my boy. Thank you. This is too much. I must offer you more than just," and he kind of like, more than just that this is worth. You're new here. The city is a little dangerous. Talk to Gaius. He's performing at the High Noon. He will take care of you.
Should I have given you less?
In my trade, my boy, I take coppers. I take occasionally the silver. A gold gets you the royal treatment in my book. We on the streets must stick together, of course.
May I read your book?
He kind of turns and looks at you, and his eye just kind of like looks at you for a second, kind of sizing you up, and realizes that you're quite an innocent individual. He says, Gaius will know where my book is. You can read my book then. Just explain that to Gaius, okay?
I appreciate it.
Look, stay away from the sons. Those Gerbine menace. Just stay out of their way. That is a fight that you do not want to get involved in. And I see that you have quite an assortment of weapons. They are a whole nother thing. Just stay safe, boy.
They do look terrifying.
And they are. Don't ever let them scream your name.
Silence is like, oh no, that's terrible. Because his name is Silence, and he's like, is that a double entendre? Does that mean something else? And he just like doesn't know how to handle the situation.
All right, so he kind of like he pulls his arm back from around you, kind of like tries to help you, sort of like, you know, look a little less disheveled, and he just kind of pats you on the back and says, all right, head straight that direction, and he points directly through what is sort of the main east to west avenue going through the Brothers Market. He says, follow that all the way to the brews in the Vices. Once you're in the brew, ask somebody to find out where High Noon is. I guarantee you, Gaius will take care of you. Now go, boy, go. I've got work to do.
Silence will put a little bit of a pep to his step, just like, all right. You know, he puts one hand back onto his wakizashi, just like, okay, I'm going to be careful. If I see a Gerbine, I'm going to keep this here. If not, I'm going to go right to where he had pointed out and see who there looks like. I'm now looking for Galluses, just kind of like, they seem to be well-mannered folk.
As you were stepping away, you just looking that direction, something catches sort of the corner of your eye, and you step out. You see stepping out from a crowd, a Mawpak, looking very much sort of the striped sort of, you know, interesting, you know, sort of like face that you see common among the normal Mawpak of the Humblewood. He steps out of the crowd, moves immediately over, and as you kind of track him to watch him talk to the Gallus. There is a brief exchange, and there's a lot of like discomfort on the Gallus's face as the Mawpak is having this exchange, and you something calls back your attention. Looking straight forward for just a second, there's some sort of commotion in the marketplace, and it catches your eyes. You hear somebody scream, you know, thief. But as you kind of glance back and you look back, you realize that the Mawpak and the Gallus are gone.
Silence gets like really worried by that prospect, and then he'll like start to go over like exactly what happened in his head, and he's like, okay, this Gallus wants to treat me right. He put his hands around me. He seems nice, and then he like goes for his pocket. Is like, wait, did he steal from me at all? Like, can he check to see if like his coin pouch has the same amount of coin in it? Like, did that Gallus seemed pretty smooth, and if he did put his arms around him, maybe he did kind of go for his belt pouch, and he's already seen a bunch of shady deals go down, so he's like, do I have all of my coin on me?
So you begin to kind of check, and you realize that everything seems to be in its right place. And you get all the way down to your pouch where your money is. You actually do find all of your coin there. But you also find something else that catches you a little off guard. It's a different coin. A coppery piece. Old, minted, but old. Its surface and its features sort of rubbed mostly off on one side. And on the other side, you see a string of text that you do not.
Silence immediately feels bad for judging that Gallus really poorly. Just like, no, not everyone's a criminal. Now I feel slightly racist. All right. Well, he has no idea what to make of the coin, but now he's just like, oh, this is totally a gift. And like, he's going to put it in like an armor pocket, a much more secure area on his persons rather than his belt pouch. And will continue thinking about it on his way over towards the area that the Gallus had pointed out for him, trying to find someone to point him to High Noon.
So you enter the part of the Brothers Market that is just right next to sort of the docks, towards the eastern side. And you enter basically what is known as the Anvil. And the Anvil is the place where the shipwrights and the various individuals of trade who work on ships, who work around the sea, work on the various means of getting across the sea, all work. You hear iron workers, you hear, shipwrights and riggers, and you hear people making, you see people making ropes and other types of, you see seamstresses sewing sails, that kind of a thing, all along sort of this first area. And the smells here are still of sort of a brackish nature, but you can also smell the heat coming, the heat and the sort of the byproduct of smithing work, and the sort of the weird sort of grainy sort of wood smell that comes from, woodworking that goes along with being a shipwright. And you hear sort of the flapping sounds of seamstresses working on various parts of a sail or sailing, sewing up some other element of that. And so you're able to kind of take that in. And then as you pass through the Anvil, you sort of step into what is the main marketplace, where pretty much everything is for sale. Here, there isn't one type of vendor. There are clearly different sections of the market where there are very specific sort of, types of vendors, but here is sort of more the bizarre element where you can find pretty much anything. And as you are continuing to walk through, you continue to hear more of the barkers talking about Auryn, the city's champion, Razor's Den, all of that. And you also hear the call from another barker, but it turns out to be an auctioneer, and they appear to be auctioning off something. This stock is great. He has, he's worked for me for 3 seasons, blah, 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 blah. And you can hear sort of in the distance, and you can hear chains, but you can't actually see because there's a couple of stalls between you and that, but you can hear the auction, and then you hear a whip sort of go out, and you hear a cry for just a second as it sort of happens in the distance. And immediately as sort of that sort of catches your attention, you kind of look down, you hear the word thief, and it forces you to turn around for just a second as you see a small Gerbine child, darting through the legs of a hedge sort of shopkeeper who's got a bunch of trinkets sort of on their table. And the Gerbine child just kind of scurries through and then heads off in the distance towards the south.
Silence's first reaction is to help this person in need. And he will immediately try and track down this Gerbine child and chase after them.
The Gerbine child is darting and just on the other side of. Do you want to try to make a dexterity roll of some kind, an acrobatics roll, and just kind of grab him very quickly before he kind of runs off, or do you want to just engage in pursuit?
Engage in pursuit for the time being, because at the same time he wants to help someone, but also he's supposed to remain neutral, so he's having a conflict of mind. So pursuit is better instead of just trying to grab out for him.
Okay, so immediately the child just kind of makes its way through the the hedge's legs, and just darts past and makes a sharp sort of right and heads straight down south, one of the small sort of alleys between a series of stalls. Give me some sort of roll to begin pursuit. Give me a dexterity or an athletics roll to begin your sort of pursuit here. Let's see how well you do to get involved in this.
I prefer dexterity if you want to do acrobatics or just a straight dexterity roll.
Acrobatics works for me.
21.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was a natural 19 there.
You dart, immediately after the child as the hedge kind of looks around and sees this blur as you're kind of moving, and you see the child right in front of you. And the child is starting to slow up a little bit because they realize that they've probably gotten away. The hedge, is not giving pursuit. He's not hearing sort of the hedge making his calls, sort of coming after him. And so he starts to slow up a little bit as he's continuing to run. He kind of looks back. He sees you and immediately just like panics. His eyes go wide. You can see that there's a trinket in his sort of hand that he's holding on to, and he immediately makes a push to book it. What do you want to do here?
I would like to cast Prestidigitation. I want a bright flash of light in front of his eyes, just to kind of like throw out a flashbang, just to kind of like to confuse or disorientate him, to get him off his foot a little bit, so I can catch up and grab him.
As you do that, it immediately stops him up, and he kind of like, he almost gets sort of starry-eyed for a second as he's kind of like, he's stepping back, and he kind of turns and looks at you and realizes that you're continuing the pursuit, and he begins to kind of hunker down and realizes that he has to go through you. And as you get close, he darts between your legs. What do you do here?
Oh man, this kid is like way more dexterous than I am.
Well, maybe. All right. So we're going to do this as like a contested roll.
Okay.
We'll do straight up dex rolls, and let's see who wins.
All right. I got lucky on my first dex roll. Okay. I'm at 12.
That's okay. He rolled a 4.
Okay. All right.
So describe to me what you do as you interrupt this kid. Do you grab or capture him? What happens here?
I would likely use my tail as like a distraction to like kind of flap out my tail and do a bit of a spin to grab him. So like the tail is just kind of like, there's another person there. No, it's just a really big bushy tail. And then try and, twist around to grab him, to try and funnel him in an area that I can quickly grab him up in by using my tail, and spinning around to grab him as he turns or goes between my legs.
So as you kind of dart your tail out, I have a question for you about the way that the gland works when it's not like the sort of the skunk gland works when it's not sort of a situation where you're using your racial traits at all. Generally, what is Silence's sort of like? Is it smell at all in a way? Is it something that's kind of pungent just in general? How does that carry in a normal situation where you're not using your racial trait?
If you're very adept at smell, you can probably get a whiff of it from a few feet away, but unless you're really close to it, then it will not have a pervasive smell.
Okay. So he kind of begins to dart, your tail kind of comes down, and you pick him up exactly as you talk about, kind of spinning and kind of grabbing, and you're holding him up in your hand, and he's kind of dangling there, his feet, and the child is maybe a foot tall. You realize that he's a relatively young Gerbine. He hasn't hit maturity, puberty at all, so he's still just sort of in his pre-adolescent sort of stage of growth. And he's just like, no, let me go. No, come on, let me go. It's all in fun. Come on.
Silence will say, why did you steal just now?
Because it's fun, and because come on, it's a bit of a game. Everybody plays a game, right? Don't you know how to play games?
A game?
Yeah.
It's not for necessity.
Oh, no. I mean, well, it's a toy. And he holds it up, and it's this little sort of wind-up toy that has a pair of legs in it, and you kind of wind it on the side, and it looks like the motion of the feet, make this box move in some way as he's kind of holding it up in front of you. Look, put me down and I'll show you what it is. I promise I won't run away. I mean, I might run away, but if I do, it's still a part of the game, okay? I just let me show you. Look, it's really fun, and you know what? And he gets all flustered, and then you start to see him get sad. Come on, I'm supposed to do it to be in the club.
Really? Inclusion is important, but stealing to get to get there probably isn't the best way.
Yeah, I know. You sound like my mom.
It's Silence will immediately be like, dude, I do. And it's outside his norm. He didn't think that he would, be laying down this amount of. It's a tricky dichotomy for him because he didn't think he would be telling a kid not to steal, but at the same time, like, he didn't think he'd be pervasive or doing good things for other people. And so, like, another crisis of character hits him, and he's just kind of like sets the germ bean down and goes, "Show me, but you may run away after."
Okay. Are you sure? And he starts to wind up the toy as he's kind of, I don't understand. You're not like a normal adult.
I know. It's just as jarring to me as it is to you.
I mentioned my ma, and you got strange. Where's your ma?
Far away, and hopefully thinking about me.
Wow. Oh, okay. And he finishes the winding up, and he puts it on the ground, and the feet lay on the ground, and there's this little like set of feet that lead into with legs that lead into this little box that where the winder, the knob is to wind it. And as he lays it on the ground, he lets go of it. It begins to hop, and it makes a little bit of a clicking sound as it's hopping, and it hops for like 3 or 4 times, and then kind of falls on its side, and you can see the legs are still sort of kicking out a little bit as it's sort of laying on its side, and you can hear the clicking sound. And he says, "See, it's cool. It's a really neat toy. I don't know how those hedges do it. It's really interesting. They're not like the Mopok, but those hedges they can do neat stuff too. I think it's made of wood." And, he just starts to go on and starts talking about it to you, and he explains his enthusiasm for this particular item.
Silence will sit down and listen to every word, because that's not anything that anyone did for him other than his mother. And he's just like, "Am I this Jerbean's mom now too? Like, okay." But, this kid obviously needs someone to talk to. So he's like, he will sit there and listen to every word for as long as he like jabbers on. But he does know that Silence knows that he does have to get to the Gallus named Gaze and see this Auryn fella dispute in combat against someone. So he's like kind of like pressed for time, kind of like listening, but at the same time like giving the due diligence to hear what this kid has to say.
So as the kid just continues to ramble on for a bit as he talks about it, and he gives you his theories about what this thing actually does on the inside. He doesn't think it's actually magic. He thinks that it's actually just maybe it's something that they learned from the Mopok, and their ingenuity. And the conversation just continues on and on and on for the kid for another couple of minutes until he kind of slows down and he says, "Why is stealing bad?"
It is not the way of the white stripe, which is, I guess, a difficult thing to describe. Do you see the stripe on my tail?
Uh-huh.
On one side is good. The other side is bad. That middle ground is where you stand. The good will lead to good fortunes and a happy life. The bad will lead towards a life of torment and difficulties. Stealing is bad. That is the way of the white stripe.
I don't know anything about stripes. My mom says stealing is bad. She knows my older brother, Philip. He's in trouble. He keeps stealing, and he's now serving his time under the suns. She doesn't want me to end up that way, but the guys they told me if I could hang out with them if I could steal something really cool and bring it to them, but she's afraid I'm going to end up like my brother.
She is wise. Friendship, however, should not have a cost. Remember that.
I know, but before Philip got caught, that good prosperous life you talked about, other than stealing, he lived that. He took care of us. Now my mom works as a seamstress, and she works long days. She's barely ever home. I barely see her. I just needed somebody to hang out with, and they told me if I stole something that they'd teach me more.
And I can teach you as well. If you can show me to where I need to go, I will make sure that your mother doesn't have to work quite as hard.
Really? How can you do that? What do you mean? What I don't understand. That would be amazing. I miss my mom.
Take me to high noon.
Is that in the Vices?
I think so. Silence, just like already confused. Like, is that what he said? Yes.
Okay. It's kids. Kids are not supposed to be in the Vices. We're barely tolerated in the brew. I'll take you there, but I'm gonna have to, take you there, and then I'm gonna have to go. Because I don't want the sons paying attention to me either. The urchins, the kids that get caught get thrown into the urchins, and my mom has told me nasty stories about that too. Philip had to be there once, and it was horrible.
I think that'll be enough time.
Hello, and if it pleases you, this is Silence Furuiken, and it is my honor to speak about Humblewood. Humblewood is an exciting new campaign setting for D&D 5e that includes original playable races, new monsters, magical items, and a compelling adventure for 1st to 5th level characters. Whether you wish to soar as the birdfolk, thrive amongst the forests as the humblefolk, or live as your very own woodland creature, Humblewood has something for everyone. Available now at deckofmany.com/darkfortunes.
And he'll start to walk, like he doesn't know where he's going, but he's starting to walk, and hopefully the Jerbean will start to show him the right direction if he makes a wrong turn. But during that time, he wants to try and like wax poetically about the white stripe, because, he himself during his travels has kind of strayed from that philosophy. And so if he can help someone else understand it a little bit more, then maybe he can remember why he is out on pilgrimage in the first place. And, kind of providing this good deed will help him along his way too.
This kid immediately jumps up and sort of darts up next to you. And he's very fast, and he's kind of, being you're really kind of like all over the place and excited. And he's telling you, things, and he's listening to you, and he's asking you questions, and he darts back and forth on the little alleyway as you head back towards sort of the main sort of avenue that you were walking on. And as you're sort of turning around the corner, you see him sort of dart up, put the piece, the toy back on the table, and kind of wave at the hedge and say, I'm sorry. He made me bring it back. Have a good day. And he just continues to kind of dart forward, just kind of moving past before the hedge can actually try to engage. And the hedge kind of looks down at the kid as he's kind of moving through the crowd, and kind of waving at you to lead you along. And the hedge kind of turns and looks back at you, kind of like big eyes, just like total shock, mouth open as you kind of walk on by. And then he shakes his head and he goes back to tending to, the other wares that are on his table. And after you get about 20 or 30 feet away from the hedge's sort of stall, the Jerbean child just kind of runs back up and says, I hope that was okay. You didn't say anything. It felt right.
Listen to that. Listen to that intuition. It will be right most of the time.
Really? What happens when it's not right?
Then you learn, and then you grow. And that is worth more than doing the right thing.
Okay. All right. Well, here we go. Let's go. We're going to go this way, and we got to go through this gate over here. And he just continues on talking to you and then listening to you as you talk to him about the way, as he takes you from the Brothers Marketplace into the Brothers Vices. Now, the Vices is a place where you can go and find almost anything that you want in the form of pleasure. And where you're stepping in is in the most tame part of it, known as the Brew. The Brew is a long stretch sort of on the eastern side of the Vices, and it contains a series of taverns and inns and pubs and drinking establishments. And immediately the Gerbean's attitude changes from excited to sort of muted. It's like, all right, so yeah, okay, we're gonna go this way, and he points to off to your right, and he says, we're gonna go this way. We're gonna go down this street here. The High Noon is over here. You just be careful here, okay? Even for adults, it's kind of an intense place. So, and he kind of looks up, and you see him sort of glance up, and he's looking up towards one of the nests that you saw very similarly in the docks, just by the entrance to the slums known as the Brothers' Hand. And you kind of look up and follow his gaze, and you are kind of taking the situation. And what you see up there is exactly the same thing. You see a raptor paying attention, looking around at the street below, kind of taking it all in. A servant sort of standing behind him, arms sort of crossed and just kind of, taking in the situation as well. And then you see a Gerbean sort of scurry up, one of the city's sons, one of the guards, the brothers' sons, kind of scurry up towards it, pull on a rope that's sort of attached below. And as the Gerbean pulls, you see that the servant up top grabs onto where that rope is attached and immediately yanks and continues to pull up. And you see the Gerbean sort of shoot into the sky very quickly, being pulled almost 70 feet up in a matter of a couple of seconds, just by the strength of that servant holding on to that particular rope. And just as the Gerbean's sort of like sailing up, with this particular rope, you see it sort of turn its body a little bit and sort of jump on, sort of angling and kind of rolling and sliding onto the top of this nest as you see it begin to interact with the servant and the raptor.
Okay. The Silence will definitely take note of that. I want to pull up this Gerbean child, like kind of close to a wall, and then I want to kneel down. Silence wants to kneel down towards him and then kind of bring his big bushy tail like around him in order to have like this small space where him and I can talk privately. And at that point, I want to provide 2 gold pieces to him and say, you get home right now and put this somewhere safe.
I can't. Gold? I've never seen a gold piece before. I've never even seen a silver piece before. Mama maybe brings home a couple of copper, every week. Wow. Really?
Hopefully this will help you and your mother learn a thing or two about kindness for a while.
Kindness. What's your name?
Silence.
Silence. That's a weird name. Why would anybody name you Silence? What was your mom thinking? Were you a loud baby?
My father named me. And Silence kind of like goes into like a little bit of a 10-yard stare for a second. He says, how about this? Remember Furuiken. It means old sword.
Old Furuiken?
Close enough. If you remember the old sword, you will remember me.
Old sword. Thank you. My name's Gaston. And he just reaches his hand out and offers it to you. And it is a tiny sort of like mouse hand, just pawed, just kind of reached out. And his hands are all like sprayed, splayed, so that he can, you can see that he's just trying to be an adult here as he kind of tries to shake your hand.
I will shake it as gingerly as possible because I'm just like, oh, this small frail child, please don't break it.
I'm glad that you knew your father. I didn't know mine, and oh, okay. I'm gonna go now. You see him tuck the gold pieces deep into like his jerkin that he's wearing, and he's like, I'll do my best. I actually have a hiding place at home that not even Mama knows about, and maybe I'll show it to her tonight when nobody else is around. We live with a couple of other families, but once they go to sleep, we should be okay. We should be okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Silence. Thank you, Old Sword.
You're welcome.
I hope your day goes well.
I hope your day goes better.
Thanks. And you can see him sort of like crouch down a little bit, like sort of like assessing the situation, and then he just darts out under your tail and immediately heads back towards the gate.
Silence has like the most smug face on right now. It's just like, I did such a good thing right now. Hopefully. And then he'll go to where the child said that high dude was.
So just a couple of buildings down on the right-hand side of the street is an establishment known as the High Noon. It's a 2-story establishment. You can see that the doors are propped open, and the smells coming from there, while different, smell good to you. There's some twinged sort of spice smells, and some smells of sweat and sort of alcohol, but the spiced smells really kind of carry, more weight in your stomach and your head than anything else that you're smelling. And you hear what sounds like a sort of loud, sort of gregarious, sort of like boisterous sort of voice, sort of singing, and you hear the strumming of a lute, and you hear a song that it's essentially a sea shanty that you have heard along the coast as you've been traveling, that you recognize, and it's the sea shanty that sings of the briny bulldog.
That Silence is all about it, and like pep to the step, let's get to that music.
Okay, and as you step into the High Noon, you find yourself in quite a large establishment. Behind the bar is an aging servant who just looks incredibly tired and is kind of wiping down the various like drinking vessels that he has in front of him. And then he once he's done with that, he begins to make his way back towards a door to what looks like a back room. There's a scattering of tables that are filled, and off in a corner towards the one side of the room is a huge hearth, dusty, as it hasn't been used in what looks to be a generation. On top of it, a series of instruments, all gathering dust of some kind, except for one that looks to be like it's been touched recently and then put back. And you hear coming from the corner first, as you kind of like look into that corner near the hearth, and you see a big Gallus sort of singing and strumming along, and there's one drunk that's sort of there drinking along and kind of like mumbling in his cup and swaying, sort of singing along with the song, as you see a Vulpine kind of making her way and moving and serving various tables. And you are in the High Noon.
Silence is immediately up front and center, like he is now the biggest fanboy of this Gallus and all the music he's making.
As you step, sort of close to him, he kind of takes you in and looks at you and kind of sizes you up and down and continues with the song, and finally gets to that final sort of verse and finishes, and he strums, and he's, the lute sort of carries its ring for just a second. It's that last chord that he strummed. And then you hear him like slap it to kill the strings sort of vibrating as he says, "Thank you," to a couple of claps that are coming from around the room. And he turns and reaches for a tankard and takes a slow sort of sip off of it. And he kind of looks down at you and he says, "Well, you're new here. What can I do for you? Care for a song? Have a particular sort of story that you wish to hear?"
All stories. No. I was supposed to talk to you. Your brother sent me. Are you Gaius?
"Why, yes. If my brother sent you, he must have had good reason." And he sort of like strokes his feathers around his beak, and he says, "Just so I understand, which brother is this?"
He was yelling a lot, he was barking, he was orating. He had a lute. I gave him money, and he told me to come here. Something about a family treatment and something about a book.
You see him grinning and just kind of following along, And then his grin sort of just gets a little slack, and his eyes go a little wide. Look. That's a new one on me. Well, my brother the Barker. Well, we're all kind of Barkers of sorts. And he's not a brother by blood, but he's a brother by trade. All of us bards, we tend to believe ourselves brothers of sort of the song and the stories. And he kind of starts to ramble on a little bit, and then he says, "So, tell me, what did my brother the Barker promise you that he sent you to good old Gaius here?"
That I would be treated in the highest regard and family treatment, I think he said, or gold treatment. I was not paying as much attention as I should have. The city has a lot going on in it, and well, I need two things. One, I need some food, and two, I need to watch someone fight someone. Auryn, was it?
Family treatment, you say? Food and entertainment. Well, these are all my trades, but did perhaps my brother leave you with anything?
Oh, he'll reach into his armor and pull out the small copper coin that he had found in his pouch previously. This.
And he takes the coin from you, kind of holds it up, flips it. You hear it ring a little bit as he flips it, as he catches it, and he lays it down, and it's in his palm, face up, with the writing. And he kind of looks at it, and he looks at you, family treatment. Well, and he drops it into a pocket, in his shirt, and he says, Dear, food here. He's got to move quickly. He's going to go watch Auryn. I have to escort him personally. So how did you win the favor of my brother the Barker?
I gave him a gold coin, and that appeared to have brought much joy to him.
You're not from around here, are you, boy?
I've been told that a lot. No.
I mean, I've seen your kind once or twice in my long life, but never one so innocent.
Silence doesn't he takes a breath to say something, but he has no idea what to say in this social situation. He's just closes his mouth and then nods, just
All right. Interesting. Okay. Food and then entertainment. Family treatment. I totally get it. Boy, oh boy. I hope my brother is okay. A gold will definitely bring attention. I will have to look into that. As you see him stroking his feathers, and for the first time, his sort of mask of a smile completely diminishes as you see him sort of revealing himself for just a moment. As the young Vulpine sort of server kind of brings over and just drops food in front of you. And surprisingly, it seems like this Vulpine has brought you something that you are both familiar with, but also something that is kind of new. Something that you would actually really enjoy. It's prepared Humblewood sort of food. So something that was not uncommon for you. And Gaius looks down and says, yes, she did well. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And Silence will sit down and just begin gorging his face, and as much as possible. He is so small, but the amount of food he can pack into his cheeks and into his stomach is absurd.
Good boy. You stay here for just a second. I will be back to give you the second part of the family treatment. And then we'll talk along the way. Hopefully it won't be too much of a problem. And he looks over at behind the bar, and for just a second, you notice that there is actually what looks to be a contraption of some kind, mechanical in nature, with numbers on it, and a sun being represented on it. He looks over, says, "It's almost midday. The sun is almost at its highest point. I'll be right back. You finish your food, and we'll be on our merry." And he steps away from you, placing the loot on the table next to you, and then steps back towards the back of the where the bar is, and then steps into the back room.
Silence is like eyeing the loot as much as possible while still stuffing his face. And like, he probably cannot play music, but he's like trying to like move the bench as much as possible to like try and make the strings like rattle a little bit in order to make some noise, because that would just that would give him so much joy.
After a couple of minutes, you hear Gaius sort of coming back, and he's being loud and boisterous, making all kinds of attention. Wow, it's really close to time. It's all of you patrons. I know that the High Noon is such a fantastic place, but if you're not going to be here, you should go be at the Razor Den. I guarantee you, Auryn is going to put on one heck of a show today. And if you want to take bets, I'll take your bets. As he continues to make his way up and to your table, and he kind of grabs the loot and kind of like slings it on his back. And as he does, it makes sort of a strummed sound. But when it makes that strum sound, it sounds perfect. It sounds beautiful. It sounds almost too alluring. And he says, well, my boy, are you ready to go and have this experience? Are you ready to see the champion of the year, of the age, of the generation? Are you ready to see Auryn?
Like, Silence's mouth is already like full on open, like in both surprise and awe. He's like, yes.
Excellent. Let's go. And he kind of swoops around, kind of ushers you up out of your seat, and says, it's all good here. And he flips a coin, and it's a silver coin, and it lands on the table and sort of like rattles and then kind of settles as the Vulpine kind of comes up. This one's on me. And he swoops you out. And after you are out of the High Noon and back on the city proper, he kind of pulls you in close and says, now, boy, family business is strictly meant for those that we trust. And you somehow have earned my brother's trust. So I'm going to ask you a question and hope that I can trust you. Did you see anything in particular after you left my brother?
Yes. A Mapak talked to him. And then I looked away for a moment, and well, they were both gone.
Oh, Mapak. Do you know by chance which entrance you came in from the docks? Because it sounds like he was posted at the docks today.
Yeah, Silence will do his best to remember which entrance it was and relay that information if he can.
Oh, okay, the anvil. Yes. Yeah, He owed a debt, and I hope that that's now repaid. I hope I see my brother again. Family issues. I'm sorry to kind of include you in it, but he did give you this, and he flips the coin, and you see the coin sort of dance into his fingers, and it kind of dances back and forth along as if he's rolling a quarter between his fingers. And he says, I gave you this. This is a special thing. These aren't given out all the time. And as he's rolling it back and forth, so do you accept his loyalty? Do you accept, being treated like the family? As he kind of rolls the coin back and forth.
Silence doesn't know how to take that information. Can he insight to try and figure out exactly what Gaius is trying to get out of that?
Absolutely.
14?
What you get when kind of paying attention to the way that Gaius has been speaking to you, and the way that he's sort of talking and inferring things just based on his inflection, you get a sense that he's talking about more of an invite to some sort of group or organization referred to as the family. Other than that, you can't get a real sort of intent behind whether it's legal activity, illegal activity, religious in nature, or anything like that. You just get a sense that he's providing you with an opportunity that you would otherwise not be made available given your sort of treatment of his brother, the Barker.
Silence will think on it for a moment and go, yes, I think I might.
Fantastic. The coin continues to roll for a second, and he flips it up in the air. And as he does that, it goes way high in the air, and he pulls his hand back.
If the coin comes back down, Silence will catch it.
Your hand sort of darts out and reaches for it as you realize it's coming down too quickly, and he's not going to capture it. And as you do that, quick as his hand kind of comes across, and he says, well, my boy, consider this an invitation to the family. But for now, and he kind of lets you go, and, kind of like your hand just kind of like, you feel the grip sort of leave from him. But for now, I have something special for you. You really have arrived on a momentous day. Auryn, he really is the people's champion. Big servant, 14 points on those antlers, quite the warrior, carries an axe. He is the gladiator. He is the people's gladiator. He is the people's champion. Oh, my boy, you are so in for a show. And he just begins to talk about you as he carries you through the brew south towards the coin. Now, the coin is one of the other sort of quarters of the Brothers Vice, or the Brothers Vices. It is the district of gambling. It is the district of casinos and rolling the dice and playing of various sort of games of chance and of betting of various kinds. There are people who will take bets on just about anything there. Shipments, crops, how the weather is going to be. But the biggest, the baddest, the most, glorious thing to bet on is the events inside of the Razor Den. And today, every person who works for a booking house is calling the odds on Auryn. And Auryn is for sure to win. The odds are not stacked against him. The odds are in his favor. Everybody is just sort of acknowledging it. And he kind of ushers you through this sort of area. You're just kicking in this cacophony. He's like, don't spend any of your coin here. Just here, let me take you along this way. I will get you in, and we will have a glorious time. We will have drink. We will have song. We will sing along with the crowds, and we will cheer as Auryn has his moment of glory. And he kind of ushers you in and sort of, kind of takes you through the gates of what is this gigantic sort of like walled area. And it's about about 10 or 15 feet high, sort of surrounding, and it's a large sort of circular thing. And as he carries you through, he waves to one of the people who's accepting coin for entry, and the person just kind of waves him along, and he just kind of ushers you inside. And you are overwhelmed with the smell and the noises and the sounds of the cacophony of this Colosseum. Now, as you're stepping forward, you realize that the Colosseum is actually seated into the ground. It has been carved out of the bedrock of the ground and goes down, I don't know, maybe 100 feet in a slanted fashion until you get to sort of the battle floor of the arena. There looks to be, by rough estimates, hundreds, if not thousands of people in this place, just based on the way that you're kind of looking at this. And as you're kind of carried around, let me take you to one of the boxes. I have friends who will invite us in, and we will have a good merry time, and you will have drink, and you will be able to watch Auryn. And he just goes on and on and on. And as he steps you down into the steps, you are moving forward down towards, down the steps towards sort of these box areas. Now, you're making your way all into the Colosseum proper and heading down towards the boxes that Galus has started talking about. And as you make the steps, you take the steps down towards these boxes. The boxes are about 5 by 5. And you can see they're filled with various patrons of some sort of riches or renowned. And he takes you to a back corner of these boxes. So as you both of you step up towards the box, you see a Vulpine just sort of look over, and at first glance is a little bit of shock on their face as they recognize Gaius, but immediately, change their sort of disposition and respond and kind of look over at you, and they realize that there's somebody watching, and so the Vulpine sort of disposition changes from one of just sort of disgust and contempt to more of an openness, but there's still a guarded nature about it. And Gaius kind of reaches out and says, this is my friend Antonio. Antonio has been, a friend of mine for a great deal of time, and we've done business together in various ways. Not quite a part of the family, but he can be trusted. And Antonio kind of looks back and says, well, we've had some business problems, but you and I should really talk about that. Who's your friend here? Antonio says. And Gaius is like, brother, I didn't quite get your name. What's your name?
Silence, if it pleases you.
Really?
Yes.
Kind of shakes his head and says, okay, all right. Anyways, Silence here is a new in town, and I wanted to show him the glory of the game. And with Auryn finally, having another epic battle, it's been weeks since he's last been in the arena. I think it's a fantastic idea. And Antonio looks and kind of shakes and nods his head. Listen, Gaius, we really should go and have that conversation. Your friend Silence may just sit here for just a moment. While we go and have this conversation, if you'll excuse us. And Gaius is just like, yes, they'll bring you drink. You'll have food. Enjoy yourself, my boy. I'll be right back. And they usher you into sort of the box, and there's a couple of seats that you can choose from. And you can see that there are various offerings of food already there, sort of like available to you. And there's a pitcher of something that smells like an ale and a couple of goblets for you to be able to pour your own drink. And you hear the crowds kind of going wild, and you kind of look around and you see down and you see that there's a battle going on, inside of the, the floor of the arena, as there's a combat happening between what looks to be like a servant and, a strig going against what looks to be a gnoll. And you hear the crowd saying, "Roar, Auryn!" As the crowd is going wild. Auryn, just screaming and yelling. But something catches your ear as a part of the crowd. You hear sort of a squawk, and you turn and you look, and you see that the Vulpine Antonio and Gaius are having an argument. And you see that Gaius is really angry. And the Vulpine is just arguing back. Antonio is just, you can't hear the argument, but occasionally you can hear a noise coming from Gaius. And behind Gaius, as you're kind of looking up towards him, you see that there are two more Vulpines sort of stepping up, clearly intent on taking Gaius.
Silence will definitely, against some better judgment of what he should be doing for his pilgrimage, being neutral, will not necessarily like directly intervene or confront, but like walk up closer. But instinctually, one of his hands has gone up to the massive blade on his back and has grabbed at the handle, because he instinctually feels that something is wrong. And Gaius, this new friend of his, someone who has shared music with him, is unhappy.
You notice that the two Vulpine continue to kind of move forward, and they're kind of slowly backing up. And at one point, arms wrap around Gaius's, two grabbing onto each arm, coming from each side. As Gaius is kind of like turning his head back and forth and beginning to squawk and squawk. And he looks down and makes eye contact with you for just a second as he's pulled away from your view, sort of like back into the crowd. And you see that Antonio is just continuing to walk and follow.
At that point, like, can I insight that look that
you sure can,
that Gaius is giving me? 13.
He's clearly not sure what's going to happen next, and he's looking at you imploringly. as almost like he needs help.
Yeah. At that point, Silence will begin dashing forward, and he will pull out the sword just a little bit, enough to where the beautiful, polished, folded steel is bare, as kind of like a threat.
As you dash up there and make your way back up onto sort of the walkway proper behind all the sort of the bench seating, 10 or 15 sort of rows back up towards the top, you get up there and all you see is the crowd. You don't actually see anyone like that you recognize there. You don't see Antonio the Vulpine. You don't see the two other Vulpine sort of, holding on to him or holding on to Gaius, and you don't see Gaius anywhere.
Perception. I would like to frantically look around because the city's really good at having people disappear in front of you. You're like, oh no. 16 perception.
So off in the distance, just towards, sort of in front of you and along the sort of the curvature of the Colosseum, you see the crowd sort of beginning to kind of like look disrupted a little bit. And you catch occasionally a couple of feathers that look like the color of Gaius, kind of flapping up above the crowd for just a couple of seconds. And then it just kind of gets dragged, back down. As you can see that sort of disturbance in the otherwise flow of the crowd along the outside of the Colosseum continue to kind of happen.
Silence is at mad dash now. He's just like, go now, target, go. And he is sprinting as fast as he possibly can to get there.
What is the disposition that you have with the sword?
As in, does it weigh me down?
As in, is it come more than just being slightly exposed at this point as you're holding this?
There's only a few inches. I cannot bear any more than that without harm.
All right. You dash forward, making your way through the crowd, darting in and around, making your way farther and farther forward until you actually come to what looks to be like a break in the crowd and there's a clearing. As you see across this sort of break in opening, the two Vulpine dragging Gaius with Antonio sort of following behind. And you're kind of, your gaze is up as you're kind of looking at the crowd and you're kind of looking at this, but you're kind of thrown by the fact that there's this little bit of a clearing kind of like opened up in front of you, and your gaze kind of drops down and you realize that standing in front of you, spears down, pointing on the ground, but pointing in your general direction, are two Gerbine, sons of the brother, standing in front of you. Sheath your sword.
Silence's eyes will be darting back to where Gaius was, down to the Gerbine, and remembering important information, will sheath the sword and try and comply with these people. But he says, I must hurry. My friend is in danger.
You will unstrap your sword and drop it now.
Oh, man. Silence will say, have I done something wrong?
Comply or face the consequence.
Silence will comply and put the sword down. He'll remove it from off of his back. This sword that is 4 to 5 times larger than the Gerbine, probably the same size that his spear is, and set it down on the ground.
As you do that, one of the pole arm blades kind of moves forward as the Gerbine steps forward, poking and prodding you towards the back, to get you back. And as it comes out a little too fast and nicks you just slightly along the cheek. There will be more of that if you don't continue to move back. Stay away from your blade.
He will move back reluctantly, but is eyeing his blade. If they go for his blade and run off with it or do anything that he does not want to have happen to that sword, that sword is his likelihood and needs it. We're about to have a showdown.
As the Gerbine with the sphere is kind of angling you to back up the crowd, you can hear that there's a disturbance behind you as two more are moving up behind you through the crowd as they're kind of parting ways. You're hearing the din of the crowd sort of roaring over the fact that Auryn is, currently in the fight for his life, and you hear kind of blood curdling, clashing and screams as metal comes across metal, as these two other Gerbine just sort of come back, and you can feel their spears in your back.
Silence will hold up his hands and try and look as unmenacing as possible and kind of give in to what appear to be the police of this area. He will relinquish his freedom to them.
As the three of them have you angled in such a way and kind of moved back far enough away, about spear length from your blade, the fourth one lays his blade down, his spear down, moves forward, and reaches for your blade to pick it up.
My immediate Silence's immediate thought is, I don't think he has the strength to pick up that blade. But I will. Silence will shout out, "Do not touch my blade. That is the only thing I ask of you. It is mine. It is as dear to me as my own soul."
The Gerbine stops, its pawed hand right above sort of the hilt of the blade, sheathed, looks up at you, gives you a big grin, and wraps his hand around the hilt, smiling at you, leering as his hand sort of wraps around it, and that's where we're going to end it.
Okay. Oh no.
Dark Fortunes is an unMadeGaming production and a proud member of the Don't Split the Podcast Network. If you'd like to learn more about the world of Dark Fortunes and get some behind-the-scenes looks, please go join us at Patreon at patreon.com/unMadeGaming. Thank you for joining us on this high seas adventure, and we'll see you next time on Dark Fortunes.